How would you describe your upbringing as an Afrikaner during apartheid?
I grew up in a very conservative white Afrikaner home. I was the first student who said, this university must be integrated and Nelson Mandela must be released from prison and the ANC and other liberation movements had to be unbanned. Because I said that and I was expelled, my dad, a very conservative man, was furious. And when they heard that I was expelled, they said, this communist child, we want the money back. We're not going to pay for someone who behaves like this.
So you were considered a sellout?
I was considered a total sellout. I was considered to be a traitor.
Yeah.
I also decided to leave the Dutch Reformed Church. I was also a member of the Dutch Reformed Church. And I said, I'm resigning from the church because they believed in the theology of apartheid.
Yeah. So they don't appreciate the fact that you chose to be on the side of the native people of South Africa during, their time of oppression and obviously during the apartheid era.
Titus, we have to accept that the majority of white people and also Afrikaner people have not changed. The reality is that they still hold on to those old ideals of apartheid. They still want to continue to think of themselves as a superior race. The reality is that they still hold on to the land.
Now, let me take you back a little bit. I want to understand what type of upbringing you've had. How would you describe your upbringing as an Afrikaner? During apartheid, obviously white people, Afrikaners were in fact privileged. And why and how was it? How were you able to, in fact, enter into the political arena and become an activist at the time? Your background, your parents, did you get any support?
As I said, I grew up in a very conservative white Afrikaner home in a very small conservative Afrikaans town.
Yes.
Zeerust.
Must have been very difficult for you.
And when I started to ask questions, there was a very, very negative response. Remember at the time when I really started my political activism, I was a student at the Rand Afrikaans University. And I was the first student at the RAU, which is today called the Johannesburg University, the University of Johannesburg. I was the first student who said that this university must be integrated. I stood for the Student Representative Council saying we need a fully integrated university and Nelson Mandela must be released from prison and the ANC and other liberation movements had to be unbanned. At that time, the liberation movements were all still banned and Madiba was still in prison, together with many other political prisoners. Because I said that, and because I put up posters at the old Rand Afrikaans University, I was expelled from the university. So my education was interrupted. My dad, a very conservative man, was furious because now I lost my bursaries to study. In fact, the family was plunged into financial difficulties because they had to repay the bursaries that I got from Afrikaans bursary schemes, from a bursary scheme that was known as the Afrikaanse Taal en Kultuurvereniging. And when they heard that I was expelled, they said, this communist child, we want the money back. We're not going to pay for someone who behaves like this.
So you were considered a sellout?
I was considered a total sellout. I was considered to be a traitor, a verraaier in Afrikaans. Ne? My dad got so angry, he kicked me out of the house. This was at the age of 18. I had nowhere to go. Remember, I grew up in this Afrikaans family. I didn't have friends in progressive left circles. I was just objecting to apartheid.
Yes.
So after my dad kicked me out of the house, I found myself walking the streets, sleeping in parks, on benches, because I had nowhere to go. And then one day I saw there was a newspaper poster from the old Sowetan on one of the lampposts saying that Father Simeon Kwane, who was then the dean of the Anglican Church of Johannesburg, was praying and fasting because evictions were taking place from people in informal settlements. And I looked at that poster, I said, okay, let me go and meet with this man. Perhaps he can help me. So I walked all the way to St. Mary's Cathedral here in the CBD of Johannesburg. I went to the PA of Father Mkwane. I said, I want to see the dean. This little Afrikaner boer boy standing there, she looked at me. She thought, hey, what's going on here?
Yeah.
But eventually she allowed me to see the dean. And he said to me, you know, young man, I think I must bring someone who will understand you better than me. Come back tomorrow. So the next day I came back, and when I walked into his office, I got the fright of my life, because there was an elderly white Afrikaner man sitting in his office. You know, those safari suits with the short trousers and the long socks pulled up like those old conservative Afrikaners wear. And I thought, oh, this man went and called the security police. They're going to arrest me now. But I was wrong. The person who was sitting there was Dr. Beyers Nodier. Now, I don't know if you know who Dr. Nodier is. You know, he's much older than most of us. But he was an Afrikaner clergyman who decided that apartheid was wrong. He resigned, in fact, he was kicked out of the Dutch Reformed Church because he objected to apartheid. He started an organization called the Christian Institute, and he was fighting against apartheid. So Mbey understood this young Afrikaner boy because he came from the same culture, the same background. And I always say Mbey became the father to me that my own father could not be to me because my father couldn't understand me. So Mbey became my mentor, my father. He taught me a lot. I learned a lot about the struggle history, the liberation struggle history. He had a very modest home in Greenside in Johannesburg. And most of the time that I engaged with him, he was a banned person. So he could only see one person at a time. He couldn't leave his house early in the morning than 8 o'clock, and he had to be back 6 o'clock in the evenings back at home. But we always used to go and sit in the back garden under a peach tree. And he would have a small transistor radio, and he'll turn it on loud so that if they try to listen to what we're saying, there's interference from this radio. But he taught me about Comrade Oliver Reginald Tambo. It was through him that I met Mama Winnie Madikizela Mandela the first time, Mama Helen Joseph. It was through him that I learned so much about the liberation struggle. And then I started working in Alexandra because I had no job. I was this young Afrikaner boy who had been kicked out of his home, who was not any longer at university. I also decided to leave the Dutch Reformed Church. I was also a member of the Dutch Reformed Church, and I said I'm resigning from the church because they believed in the theology of apartheid. And I joined the same church where Mbey was now in Alexandra, which was called the Dutch Reformed Church in Africa in 12th Avenue in Alex. And I also started working in Alexandra in an upholstery factory, where I learned to make upholstery, because that was how I was then earning a small salary and able to sustain myself.
So you were on your own at the time. Your father kicked you out of the house. Was your mother of the same sentiment? Did she also reject you?
Look, my mother, of course, is a mother. So she wasn't as strong as my dad. But remember, in the Afrikaans community, it's a very patriarchal society. And the woman in the house, the mother, takes the lead from the father. So she couldn't really go against my dad. She tried to be kinder to me than my dad was, but she couldn't bring me back to the home because my dad said I had to leave.
Yeah.
And you must understand that the rest of the Afrikaner family, on both sides, from my mum's side and my dad's side, were very much against me. In fact, they thought I was absolutely the worst possible thing that could have happened to the family.
Yeah.
And many of them up to this day still reject me and they've not accepted me.
So they don't appreciate the fact that you chose to be on the side of the native people of South Africa during, their time of oppression and obviously during the apartheid era.
Titus, we have to accept that the majority of white people and also Afrikaner people have not changed. The reality is that they still hold on to those old ideals of apartheid. They still want to continue to think of themselves as a superior race. The reality is that they still hold on to the land. Behind you, there's a poster that says, white people own 72% of the land. That is a reality. And I'm very clear that the land must be returned to the people. It also means that those who have taken the land from the rightful owners, from the indigenous people in this country, have to return the land. Now, that doesn't go down very well with some of these Afrikaner farmers. But you know what? Tough luck for them. They have to face the reality of the new South Africa. The land must be returned to the original owners, and the land must be there for the wealth and the empowerment of the people. Let me give you an example. If you come and steal my car, and I find out there's Titus's home, that is where my car is parked.
Yes.
Well, I go there with my wallet and come to you and say, Titus, can I pay you for my stolen car? That's nonsensical.
Absolutely no.
But unfortunately, that is what the ANC negotiated at Kudesa, because we went and enshrined in the Constitution, Section 25. We went and enshrined property rights in the Constitution, which gives property rights to the white community who are the benefactors of the colonial stealing of the land. Now we say if we want land, the land must be paid for. Isn't it the same as you've stolen my car, but if you want my car to come back to me, I must pay you? That's absolute nonsense. So if the white community doesn't like the reality that they're benefactors of colonial thievery, and that the land must be returned to the rightful owners.
There you have it, guys. Our African leaders are really trying their best to manage Africa's challenges as much as they are. And when we show these speeches here on this channel, we actually encourage to share our thoughts in the comments. And so whatever it is you guys think about these speeches, please do share your thoughts in the comments.
Thank you for watching, guys. I really hope you enjoyed this video. Please share and like and subscribe, because that's the way you support Kwazemi as a channel, an Afrocentric channel, where we try to understand deeper issues in African history and hopefully develop a collective intelligence on how we wish to build the Africa we want to see as people of Africa. See you in the next one.